back to the Wolf Den. I'm the Wolf, and I've got a little bit of a different video planned for you guys today. If you haven't figured out from watching the channel, I am a huge nerd. Uh, and about a month ago, I wrapped up a year-long 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And so I had the idea of having my players ask me questions almost like an interview. And then I would answer them, honestly on here. Um, and if you guys have any questions about the campaign, you can go ahead and leave those in the comment section below. And once I finish with my players' questions, I will answer yours. And let me go ahead and set up with the story and kind of the party and everything. So the story was one that I homebrewed. There's my dog, or not my dog, but my neighbor's dog barking. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's distracting. Anyways, God, that's very distracting. I'm outside because it's the quietest place in the house right now, except for that dog. Anyways, the a majority of the party started in a prison run by a drow named the Warden. They weren't allowed to know her name because that was part of her rules. Now, if you're not familiar with drow culture, number one, women are in charge. The female drow are in charge of everything, and the men are underneath them. And the other thing is the drow send out raiding parties to collect slaves and bring them back to the Underdark. Well, the Warden figured out a clever way of creating false prisons on an island. Well, real, but false prisons on an island, to which she would just, have corrupt guards or pirates or whatever have you, criminals of the world, find people, lock them up, and send them to the island, which was called the Grave Mount, or it was commonly called the Grave, simply because people who went there didn't return until my party came along. But anyways, so eventually the main core of the party broke out of the prison-ish. They got away, started collecting allies, grew the party bigger, made allies with 5 different kingdoms, and brought them together to face the Warden, and eventually win and secure their freedom and destroy the evil known only as the Warden. But I have a card because it has all the names. In my party, and you'll see why I have a card and I don't just know them off the top of my head. Excuse me. In my party, I had Sean, the half dragonborn, half drow rogue, played by Jeremiah. Kanye, the halfling sidekick, also played by Jeremiah. The sidekick is some playtest material that Wizards of the Coast released, which was like you basically get an NPC and you train them up, and they have like different abilities from a few of the different classes. It's actually really, really cool. I recommend looking at it and incorporate it into your games. Then we have Tamlin, the half elf, half tiefling bard, played by Tim, which is actually the same Tim for Timothy Long Blacksmithing. I will link his channel in the description below. If you can't tell already, there's a lot of homebrew in this. Then we have Mimi, or Mimi C, who was a mimic that transformed into a human and was married to Tamlin. It's a whole thing. But anyways, Mimi C is also played by Tamlin, or by Tim, sorry. Then there's Hurricane, the Fire Genasi monk, played by Courtney. There's Dahlia, who was a full-blooded elf, I think. pretty sure she was full-blooded elf, played by Jordan. Oh, Dahlia was a cleric. We have Standing Possum, the human barbarian, played by Angelo. And then we have Asterisk, played by Angelo again. Again, a human barbarian. And then we have Val, who was a dwarf fighter of some kind. Oh, no, she was a cleric, a Warforged cleric. Val was an NPC. And she just stuck around with the party, and the DM, me, and a couple of the other, and one other DM controlled her. There's Nox, which is the half orc. Excuse me, I'm used to playing half elves. Half orc monk, which was my character. Joy, the elven fighter, who was summoned from the deck of many things. So she was played by Raina, because her character drew that card. There's a whole lot. But Raina from Raina and Jessica, I'll also link their channels down below. Keta, the full elf, actually I believe high elf rogue, again played by Raina, and Ange, human paladin, again played by Raina. Aisling, played by Melissa, who did a lot of the art that you'll see in this video and the other videos that come along. So Aisling was a halfling druid, and Owen, the Goliath, what was he? He was multi-class. Owen was the Goliath fighter with the Eldritch Knight subtype, I don't know, whatever, and Warlock. And I don't remember I remember his patron, but I don't remember like the pack that he took. But anyways, Owen was again played by Jeremiah. So as you can see, a pretty extensive party, and I know the name is the Adventures. Well, no, the name of the party was Battlin Rog. They came up with that themselves based on a song by Seamus Kennedy, and I know the song is like right there in the title. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's actually called. Anyways, that was my adventuring party, Battlin Rog, and the campaign became known as the Adventures of Battlin Rog. But without further ado, let me go ahead and answer some questions. I have my hat. I have my questions. I'm probably going to do about 4 questions a video, unless some of them are 2-parters. We'll see how it goes. But right now, I'm mixing up the hat. And here we go. We have our first question. Oh. Was there an event that almost or did derail your campaign? From Jeremiah. No, not really. If I homebrew a campaign, I try to make it as flowchart as possible, which basically just means, are they supposed to do this? Yes. Here's what happens. Or are they supposed to do this? No. Okay, well, here's what happens. And just kind of getting back down to the same end goal through a flowchart. There were things that I definitely wasn't expecting to happen, but because of the flowchart, nothing really derailed it. I will say Keta making friends with the harpies that charmed her, or Aisling making friends with the Remoraz. Those I wasn't expecting to happen, but it didn't really derail a whole lot. But that is interesting, because derailments can happen. How much did you improvise? From Tim. Well, not the whole game. Definitely not. I have story plots and points in mind. I'd say 60-40 maybe. 60% planned, 40% improvised. But sometimes it wasn't always that. Sometimes it's 70-30, 50-50. Um, excuse me. Things like that. I think for a healthy game, you do need some improvisation. Um, and basically, you have to have your like the flow chart is exactly what I'm saying is you have in mind. Okay, here's my story. Here's where I want them to go. Um, how are they going to get there? And if you plan a straight line, and then your players go this way outside of your straight line, well, there goes everything you had planned, and now you've got to make something up. So instead, have a flow chart and basically just be ready. Hey, they weren't supposed to, kill this king or whatever, but they did. Well, let me improvise what happens now, but I still have a flow chart and it gets me back to where I want them to be. Um, for this campaign specifically, probably 60-40, and with 60 being being the planned percentage. What was it like balancing so many players and characters, especially when some of the characters are so powerful? From Reina. It was difficult. I'm not gonna lie, that was hard. Um, and I realized I messed up on a few things, and I gave you guys some things that I probably should have looked into a little bit more. The thing is because I'm a DM and a player, I see really really cool things, and I go, man, I want that. So then I would give it to the party. Um, but other than that, it wasn't super bad. Yeah, having a lot of multiple characters and multiple of them being very powerful. That's why I introduced the cheeky. You're playing an RPG and you leave the tavern and it's like select your party and you only have enough spaces to take X amount of characters. That way, I don't take like the whole however many are there. I'm not going to count them, but like let's say 10 or 11 members of Battlin Rog, and then they just smash everything I have. And then I got to sit there and do like the monsters initiative plus the 10 or 11 characters. Yeah, no. That's difficult. So I did it a fun way where I was like, oh yes, in an JRPG, you have the party that follows you around. You see it, but then when you get into combat, you have the specific people that are there, and so that's what I was doing to try and balance it. Just because I got to remember a lot of names, I got a lot to remember hit points and armor classes, and that was a lot. But it was fun to do. I enjoyed it. Okay, this one is a two-parter. So, how did you come up with the idea for the campaign, and what motivated you to go through with it? And that's from Courtney. So actually, the idea for the game came about a couple of years ago. So I am. So I try not to put any of my beliefs or anything like that on here because, except for that, I believe nerdiness is cool. Just because I want to stay not ambiguous, but you don't come to me to hear my opinions on some worldly topics. You want to hear me talk about Mandalorian and stuff like that. At least I assume you do. That's why you subscribe to a nerd channel. But I am actually a Christian, and I'm a part of this organization, I guess is the right term. If not, I don't know. But anyways, it's called InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. At least that's the one that is the national, or not national. That is the national. name, and then the global name is a big long one that I can never remember. But anyways, and so our goal is like to reach every corner of every campus, and just like spread the good news. Some people come and listen to us, other people don't. And but a lot of the people in InterVarsity, and obviously myself included, play Dungeons and Dragons, and we're sitting there. So we have small groups throughout the week, and basically they're just Bible studies, more like Bible discussions. And InterVarsity is interdenominational, which means we don't exclude anyone. We take everybody. In the last two two or three semesters, I don't remember how long he's been there, we've had an atheist that comes to our Bible studies and like listens to what we're saying and talks with us. Sometimes debates, but and it's all fine. Why do you believe what you believe? Well, here. And why do you believe what you believe? And then he gives his example. But anyways, just trying to think of how can we like reach more people. How can we do that? And it's like, well, is there anybody or any group that we feel like we should be reaching out to, but we're not? And I was like, well, I had two in mind. I was like, well, there's the LGBTQ plus community that obviously there's some tension there and some connotations with Christians and the LGBTQ plus community. I'm pretty sure. I remember that it just used to be LGBT, so that's why I'm not sure if it's the Q plus now. I'm not sure. But anyways, no hate. I just don't remember if. Anyways, and I was like, and the gamers, and so it's like, well, those two groups, we're not really interacting with, and so we were actually able to do both, so that was cool. But I was like, well, a lot of us in leadership play Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe we can do that. We can go into the library, reserve a study room on campus, and just play the game and play like a biblically themed game where it's not in your face, but there are themes from the Bible that are taken and put into this game and let people interact and see how it is. And then, of course, I had scripture verses that backed up what I was talking about and the themes and all of that. So I asked my staff worker, I said, hey, can I do this? And she said, yeah, go ahead. And I was like, oh, sweet. All right. So the first semester I tried it, it didn't work. That semester was a disaster. Not because the game didn't work or I didn't have the right mechanics or anything. It was my dresser drawer like fell out and like hit my big toe and like caused a huge blood blister, and I was missing like so many days, and I eventually had to go to the ER and all this kind of stuff. It was horrible. So, and then once we finally got off the ground, I had a session, and then after that, one person showed up like weekly, and it was just me and him, and I was like, so let's just talk about the Bible. We'll just go into a regular Bible study. The second semester, it started off stronger than the first, and then it just slowly petered out and fell apart, and so it didn't work. And then the third semester that I tried it, I have no idea what that was. The third semester that I tried it, I was actually able to get a strong group. In fact, I kept adding people. I got the main people I started with, and we were meeting. Then I got more people and more people, and then the whole group just formed, and we were able to stay together for a year, which is honestly great. I was so happy. And we played through like Christmas, well, not Christmas Day, but we played through like Christmas vacation, summer vacation. It was cool. So that's how I came up with the idea. What motivated me was those two first semesters of failure. Semester one didn't do anything. Semester two, we were getting there and it just fell apart. But by the and so when I was going into the third semester, I reworked things, figured things out how I wanted it to be, how the themes I wanted, and it just finally worked. And so that's where the motivation was. And then I was able to complete a year long story, or make a story go a year long, and then I was able to complete one. I guess some two other motivating factors were: one, up until that point, up until last month, I've never completed a story with D&D, and I've never played longer than like 6 months, I'm pretty sure. So those two were some underlying factors, but definitely the first two semesters of failure were what got to me, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do this, and I did, and it was really, really fun. And that is all the questions I have this time around. Next time I will write down 4 more questions that my party asked me, put them in the hat, and we'll go ahead and answer them. And if you guys, like I said, if you guys have questions about it, put it in the comments down below. And once I finish, I think I have 13 questions. Once I finish with those 13, I'll be happy to answer yours. But other than that, I look forward to howling with you again next time.